Did you know back in 1986, Nintendo actually personalized every copy of Super Mario 64 by implanting an AI in its chip that adapted to your skill level, playstyles, and even desires towards the game? This, of course, is absolutely a lie. 25-year-old game like Super Mario 64 could never possibly have such a thing. So what am I talking about? What happened was that Mario Nova 64 and Greeno 64 discovered a tape of someone playing Super Mario 64 in 1996, and wild stuff started to happen. This created a resurgence of Super Mario 64 as it resulted in massive Google search volume that hasn't been seen since 2005. And due to that, this old game, whose finite secrets should have been long since been unlocked, has seen its cultural relevance extended yet again by online campfire stories. And believe it or not, I think there are several powerful business lessons to be learned here about the importance of embracing change, the way the internet has changed storytelling, and the powerful endurance of the Nintendo brand. This leads us to the Super Mario 64 Conspiracy Iceberg. Before I talk about anything else, I want to make one thing clear. When I refer to Super Mario 64 conspiracy theories, I am specifically referring to the popular image that has been passed around the internet as a meme. This is the image, guys. Do you see it? It is very nice. As you can see, there is so much going on in this image that it defies sufficient explanation. Each bit of red text is its own conspiracy theory. Now, some people are really into those individual conspiracies and their meanings, and that's cool. However, that's not what I'm concerned about in this post, though I will touch on them. Instead, I want to explain why people are telling horror stories about a 25-year-old video game, and why these stories are so emotionally effective even as readers read them with an ironic detachment. Why do this? Because for these conspiracy theories to spread online, two extraordinary things had to be true simultaneously. First, Nintendo had to have a brand so consistent and omnipresent that subverting its innocent message successfully creeps people out. And then second, the stories had to connect with people so much that they were shared around the internet, despite being Byzantine in their complexity. And these stories benefit from Nintendo being a household name for almost 40 years. Nintendo's history has a storied one with lots of twists and turns. For one, Nintendo is often credited with saving the video game industry entirely in 1985, when it released the Nintendo Entertainment System. At the time, video games seemed like a weird late 70s to early 80s trend that was on its way out. Then of course, there's the fact that Nintendo has created 12 different home and handheld consoles over the course of more than 30 years that have sold over 10 million units. Then you have all its popular franchises, with Mario selling over 830 million units worldwide, Pokemon at 440 million, and Legend of Zelda over 149 million copies. And that list can go on for a very long time, and it explains how Mario has become such an outsized part of our culture, a fact which will become important when I talk about the conspiracy theories later on. There's a certain je ne sais quoi that makes Nintendo such a powerhouse of a brand. When you know what you're looking for, brands tend to fall into the same basic archetypes. Nintendo is a great example of an innocent brand. They typically have a safe, positive personality that exudes optimism, honesty, and purity. They're wholesome and all about bringing people together. Everything about Nintendo gives off the vibe of innocence. It's the bright and cheery woohoos of Mario in its commercials that focus on bringing together happy friends and families of wholesome video games. Between enormous home and handheld console sales, a bevy of successful franchises, and highly consistent branding, Nintendo has essentially created Nintendo-ness that is impossible to copy. But due to its angelic and innocent nature, it is the perfect opportunity to corrupt this sense of innocence to create horror, which is exactly what the Super Mario 64 conspiracies did. But we have to thank speedrunning first, as it kept Super Mario 64 relevant in the 2000s and 2010s. So one way to experience Super Mario 64 after completing it is to do a speedrun. The idea is that you play through the game with the intent to complete it as quickly as possible. And thanks to Super Mario 64 being an old game, it's hella glitchy, creating a speedrunner goldmine, where they have every opportunity to exploit these glitches to shave precious seconds. But if you have never seen a speedrun, it looks like pure chaos, as they break the norm of completing the game and instead find glitches that allow you to complete the game with just 16 stars, 1 star, or even none. As a result, it's kept Super Mario 64 in the society's collective unconscious for much longer than it should have, and it's part of the reason why the conspiracy theories blew up. And it's so well known that content has been created and gotten popular in its own right. A prime example is Nathaniel Bandy, who exploits the backwards lunge jump glitch with, I kid you not, different fruits hooked up to the computer via USB. Then of course, you have clever programmers who rip the source code of Super Mario 64 to change various conditions of the game. That allows mad scientists like SwankyBox to fill the game with over 100,000 Goombas just to see what would happen. But what is the moral of this story? Well, it's the fact that if you want your product to last long term, sometimes it pays to embrace creative unintended uses, something that Nintendo really doesn't like. And that's the kind of thing that can create a subculture that no business can copy, no matter how hard you can try. Now finally, when you talk about the rise of creepypasta or the middle class internet horror. So to truly understand why their theories are able to spread, you need to understand one more thing first: creepypasta. They are horror stories and urban legends that spread online anonymously through forums, image boards, and social media. The first Nintendo game to be reimagined as a horror story is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask in 2010, created by Alex Hall, also known as J. Disable. A story was published online about a haunted cartridge, previously owned by Ben. Legend has it that the spirit was haunted the old game's cartridge, causing all kinds of unsettling glitches, among other things. That story went on to be so massively popular and was culturally significantly enough to earn its own Wikipedia page. Now at this point, I should say that creepypasta is a thriving cultural entity in its own right that have created new monsters like Slender Man, who resembles a tall, thin man wearing a black suit and with no face. This is many people's first experience of creepypasta. Then there is the wonderful wiki of all kinds of spooky phenomena gathered by the SCP Foundation, which has spawned video games and movies. And in August 2021, YouTuber JJ McCullough created a video on middle-class internet horror. His work contextualizes the current horror stories of the internet as being part of a larger tradition of creating art to shock middle-class people by subverting their expectations. In his own words,
the stereotypical middle-class person really values things like schedules and routines and familiar products and services.
In short, creepypasta is a form of art. Its goal is to make you think and feel, which is why the explanation of why middle-class horror works also explains why Super Mario 64 conspiracy theories succeed in creeping people out, or at least catching their attention long enough to push them to tell their friends. But how does this relate to business or a business lesson? To me, I say we should take a note from the online horror stories in SCP, creepypasta, all that scary stuff. You know you have a viable idea when it spreads naturally. That doesn't mean the idea will naturally monetize or that there'll be no logistical issues along the way. Virality doesn't guarantee profitability, but there are no replacements for making a product that fits your market and gets people talking. The internet is a thriving communication ecosystem. In many ways these days, a marketer's job is like a gardener: plant a seed and do a little pruning, but to otherwise let the soil, sun, rain, and worms do their work. Sure, there's plenty of work to be done, but you can't force an idea to work. However, you can get an idea out there and let it manifest like a creepypasta will. This all accumulates to why people find Super Mario 64 Conspiracies scary. Nintendo is one of the safest feeling brands out there. Family friendliness is at its core, and it's a remarkably consistent brand that cashes in on its familiarity and innocence. At the same time, Nintendo, and in particular Mario, is an important part of our culture and has been for decades. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before internet horror and Mario collided, as Nintendo gave horror authors the perfect wholesome being to corrupt and subvert our expectations. As a result, there are now so many Nintendo and Mario-related SCPs in both written and game form. The business lesson here is that you've succeeded at branding when people conflate your brand with certain feelings. Subconsciously, a lot of people have made the connection that Nintendo equals safe. You want to do the same thing in your business, whether that means my brand is luxury or my brand is creativity. So if you didn't know anything about the Super Mario 64 conspiracy theories, you may have seen at first glance that it was just a bit weird and internet fun. And yes, that's definitely true. It is weird and it is a lot of fun, but so many events had to take place beforehand to make that silly meme go viral, and they're worth talking about. Nintendo is at once one of the most consistently innocent, kind-hearted brands, and one of the most recognizable and nostalgic ones too. Reimagining it as sinister is a gut punch for people who grew up playing Mario, and that's only possible because Nintendo's branding is successful in stoking emotions in its fans. The Super Mario 64 conspiracy theories are also a lesson in how the right ideas can draw massive amount of attention quickly online. You can't force ideas to go viral. All you can do is to consistently generate ideas and the right one will take off. Finally, it's a wonderful lesson in the importance of embracing creative uses of your product. Nintendo themselves may not be good at that, but as small business owners, we can be. If customers are using your product in a way you've never expected, consider embracing their creativity as long as they're not hurting themselves. You may well find your old product getting a new lease of life decades later. Well, you've got to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button to support us, smash your brain against the subscribe button to be extra awesome, ring that bell to be notified whenever we put new content out.